You're watching QTV. This is the news with me, Mamadou Gajaga. In this edition, Africans Rising Movement launched National Engagement Space. Gambia on the final stage of establishing a Human Rights Commission. The Commonwealth Partnership for Democracy, a 2-year program, begins work in the Gambia. The Gambia College, University of the Gambia, in partnership with Veterinarians Without Borders based in Sweden, Friday launched a project and training of animal welfare advocates. Those are our top stories, and now the news in detail. The African Rising Movement today launched the National Engagement Space in Banjul. The program, which was attended by the Vice President Ousainou Darboe, amplifies broad demands for connecting struggle, building solidarity and cooperation within and amongst campaigners for social, economic, environmental and gender justice. Saja Brito attended the launching ceremony at the Senegambia Beach Hotel, and she now reports.
Vice President of the Gambia, His Excellency Ousainou Darboe, applauded the organization's determination to foster an African-wide solidarity and unity of purpose of the peoples of Africa to build the future the continent desires, which is a right to peace, social inclusion, and shared prosperity. As the organization focuses on improving the ability of people and organizations to hold their governments accountable to more open governance and ending the political impunity that drives corruption and freedom of expression, the Vice President said this is in line with the government's development agenda. Darboe reiterated government's commitment to providing the legal and policy frameworks and the conducive atmosphere for the movement and all other stakeholders to continue to expand space for civic and political action, fighting for women's rights and freedoms across societies, amongst others.
I convey profound appreciation and heartfelt thanks to Africa Rising Movement for being the driving force behind this laudable initiative. Your vision, interest, and hard work to complement government's efforts will solely culminate into considerable achievements and success stories in the fight against corruption, human rights violations, and impunity in Africa and the Gambia in particular.
Mohamed Lamin Seidikan, Movement Coordinator Africans Rising, said the formation and name of the organization is to challenge the narrative that Africa is rising. Seidikan said the movement, since its inception, have committed to responding to the needs of African people. While he stated projects that the organization is set to embark on, he made it clear that his organization will not be shy
to tell any government that you are violating human rights. The movement is not shy to shout and make noise against any brutalization of human rights of the citizens of Africa. The movement is not only working in Africa, but the movement also works in diaspora, where Africans are. So it's like working, supporting, and connecting, and amplifying the voices and the organizations of African people, either in Africa or in the other part of the world.
Renowned Gambian activist Lala Toure said youth and women participation in politics and decision-making is the most effective form of good governance. Lala said young people in this country for a long time have been underrepresented, sidelined, and not given the necessary platforms to showcase their creativity. She called on Gambian youths to start participating in the nation's politics and decision-making processes. QTV News, I am Saja Brito.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Tambadou, has announced that government is on the final stage of establishing a Human Rights Commission as part of its commitment to protecting human rights in the Gambia. He was speaking at the launch of a 2-year project on human rights to be implemented by Article 19 and partners. QTV's Ansumana Esonyasi tells us more.
Speaking at the launch of a 2-year project, which is in response to human rights violations that occurred during the former regime, the Attorney General said government is setting the pace in ensuring the protection of human rights by setting up a Human Rights Commission in the Gambia. However, he has warned that without commitment, the establishment of a Human Rights Commission and showing of political will not guarantee respect for human rights.
Legislation alone will not guarantee respect for human rights and rule of law. It is certainly a start. And over this 20-month period, we have enacted several very key important laws. The Constitutional Review Commission is one. We are hoping that the human rights regime in the country will be strengthened through that process. We are at the final process of establishing a National Human Rights Commission membership. I believe it is now with the National Assembly to select 5 out of the 9 names that were submitted by a selection panel comprising civil society organizations, the Gambia Bar Women's Groups, in full compliance with the Paris Principles of Autonomy and Independence.
Commenting on government's resolve to support persons with disability, he said Cabinet has already reviewed a draft bill which will be tabled before Parliament early next year.
I am pleased to inform you that there is a draft disability bill at the moment. It was tabled before Cabinet, it was discussed, and certain proposals were made to edit. It was sent back to the line ministry, as the Ministry of Health, and there has been some delay as a result of the change of leadership at the Ministry of Health a few months back. But I can assure you that this bill will be finalized hopefully early next year, and it will be tabled before the National Assembly for enactment, so that people with disability will no longer be viewed as people without ability.
This 2-year project is aimed at strengthening human rights standards, provide support to Parliamentary Subcommittee on Human Rights, Gambia Federation of People with Disability, and the Association of Victims of Torture During Transition. Ansman Esonyasi for QTV News.
The Westminster Foundation for Democracy on Thursday launched the Commonwealth Partnership for Democracy. The program is aimed at supporting political parties for inclusive and accountable politics, making them open to women, youth, persons with disabilities, and minorities. Isa Jallo reports.
The Commonwealth Partnership for Democracy is a 2-year program to work with parliaments to improve the representation of women, youth, and persons with disability. The program comes under the theme Advancing Inclusive and Accountable Democracy in the Commonwealth, and the Gambia is one of the 18 beneficiary member countries. In the Gambia, the program aims to strengthen governance systems and leadership capacity of political parties. It will focus on making political parties more open and inclusive of women, youth, persons with disability, and minorities in their power and decision-making structures and processes. In his launch statement, Halifa Sallah, National Assembly member and chairman of the Inter-Party Committee, said the project came at the right time to partner with political parties to further intra-party and inter-party democracy. He cited the foundation laid by the Inter-Party Committee, in which all political parties agreed to a set of standards. Mr. Sallah stressed the need to focus not only on the outcome, but also the process of the outcome in which everyone is included.
And this project, our launch today, comes at the right time when we are trying to reshape our political dispensation. They are not going to dictate to us what we are going to do, but they will share with us what they have done elsewhere, because we must learn from each other in order to shape our country, but also to shape the world. I therefore take this opportunity to launch this project and encourage all of you to be partners in working with them for the good of not only our country, but the good of the world.
Ms. Anne McLaughlin, Westminster Member of Parliament, spoke on making political parties inclusive and accountable for building durable democracy and ensuring good governance. She said including disadvantaged minorities such as women, youth, and the disabled was not to make it easier for them, but to remove the barrier to make it achievable for them. The UN Resident Coordinator, Ms. Sarafin Wakana, said the strengthening of democratic governance requires more than functioning elections, parliaments, and other institutions and processes. She emphasizes that democracy requires strong culture with robust, transparent, internal democratic and accountable political parties. Ms. Wakana noted the high percentage women and youth played in the transition to democracy in the Gambia and said it would have been inconceivable that any progress can be made by excluding this group. The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Aliu Momar Njai, disclosed that women accounted for the majority of voters in the recent elections. Despite this numerical strength, he said women were still regarded as marginalized due to their underrepresentations in the political domain. He called on political parties to recruit and build the capacities of people from the marginalized groups, adding that they shouldn't be used as political tools. Ms. Charlotte Egan, Senior Program Manager at the Westminster Foundation, described Westminster Foundation as the UK's leading democracy foundation working in over 30 countries globally. She said the foundation supported the National Assembly of the Gambia in areas such as research and communication. Ms. Egan explained how the foundation would be working with the Gambia.
Now, our specific work in the Gambia will be focused on strengthening political parties by enhancing their internal governance and strengthening their leadership structures and decision-making processes. Now, why are we working with the political parties? It's because we believe that opening the space for the active participation and increased voice of women, youth, persons with disabilities, and other politically marginalised groups within political parties will result in making political parties more inclusive, accountable, and democratic, and enable them to become more effective and efficient in holding the government to account, enhancing democratic culture, and influencing public policy and legislation.
Other speakers included Honorable Ndei Seka on behalf of Govi, Lamin Dabo, Executive Secretary of the Youth Council, and Kajali Sonko of the Women's Bureau. Madi Jobate, country representative of the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, delivered the vote of thanks, and Ms. Hadi Dandi Jabi chaired the ceremony. Isa Jalo for QTV News.
Veteran politician and National Assembly member for Serekunda Central, Halifa Sallah, has said that every Gambian is equal and must understand they are sovereign citizens. Sallah was speaking as guest speaker at the handing over ceremony to the new executive of the Students' Union of the American International University, West Africa. Aliu Sise reports.
Speaking on the topic, the role of students and youth in the emerging democracy at the American International University in Kanifing on Friday, the veteran politician and National Assembly member for Serekunda, Honorable Halifa Sallah, said the battle for democracy starts with the battle against ignorance for people to understand their powers as sovereign people. On equality, Sallah said there is no minority regardless of ethnicity, religion or gender, citing the fact that every citizen has a right to one vote in an election. The seasoned politician reminded the university students that tyranny only occurs when people lack the understanding of the powers they have.
The role of students in an emerging democracy. Why it is an emerging democracy is because you have never belonged. You own not knowing that you own. Because others refuse to teach you, to educate you. Because if you want to transform somebody into a slave, you must own his mind, her mind. And that is the greatest danger to democracy, ignorance. The real battle for democracy is a battle against ignorance. Because the ignorant mind is an enslaved mind. The battle of democracy is a battle to own your mind. It's to understand that you are a sovereign person. We were controlled, dominated, subjugated. And we had to fight for self-determination and independence to create an independent nation. Moved to become a republic in 1970. And when we became a republic, each of us became a sovereign person. To know that, are we equal? Yes, we are equal. We are all equal.
Speaking on the topic, the value of all voices in governance, motivational speaker and writer Mamadou Sabali calls on people to strive to have their voices heard by the government. The former head of civil service and director of budget under President Jammeh calls for respect for leaders, but was quick to mention that all leaders must be held accountable at all times.
Democracy is about debate, but we have our culture, our tradition, which we must never lose sight of. Respect, especially respect for old age. And I implore you that in a world that is constantly conspiring to silence the individual, especially those who dare to be different and original, it is important to emphasize the need for all voices to be heard in the governance process. Does that mean that each voice must be heard and its views accepted and embraced by all? By all means, no. But even the minority voice, even if the minority voice is defeated in the polls, for instance, that voice becomes a checking instrument for any majority that has a conscience.
For activist Madi Jabate, governance is all about decision-making and therefore requires the participation of all from community, organizations to government level. He therefore calls on the students to actively partake in the affairs of the union and hold the executive accountable.
The government itself is just one institution of governance. Okay, so you as a voter, you are also a stakeholder, an actor in governance. Of course, other players are there, like the media is an actor in governance. The civil society, the private sector, you know, all other actors, academic institutions like this university, all play part in governance at the national level, but also at this level, so that you have a student affairs, a community of students whose affairs, because then governance, that's all about it. It's about decision making, about how we come to decide our affairs and how we come to manage our resources and effectively determine who gets what. So if I'm a student in this university, it's in your interest to participate in student affairs, especially in elections, because what you are doing is you are deciding your representatives.
Lamin Sidibe, Dean of Students Affairs, said the new executive was elected in a free and fair polls. The renowned psychologist encourages students to be engaged in the activities of the union. The current executive of the American University Students' Union is headed by President Jarga Gay. The executive was elected recently by students for a year mandate. The ceremony was also attended by the leadership of the university. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
The Gambia College and the University of the Gambia Animal Welfare Advocates Association, in partnership with the Veterinarians Without Borders based in Sweden, Friday launched a project and training of animal welfare advocates on the effective communication for animal welfare advocates at the Regional Education Directorate office in Brikama. The project, which has a membership of over 250 college and university students, seeks to improve animal welfare in farm animals in the Gambia through education and awareness creation. Dr. Keba Dafe is the project director of the association and spoke to QTV's Omar P. Jallo after the launching.
The association was formed in 2016 after a training conducted by a German group called WTG Vets United in partnership with the Gambia Horse and Donkey Trust. The students who attended that training deemed it necessary to form an association that would advance animal welfare in the Gambia. The association hopes to improve animal welfare through advocacy, and on that we have conducted a number of activities. The association has done 2 countrywide tours whereby they visited all the regions in the country and had meetings with farmers. During those meetings, they sensitize farmers about animal welfare. They also give free treatment to animals. Anybody that brings an animal to that type of gathering is provided with free treatment for the animal. As you know, the Gambia is essentially an agricultural country, with 70% of the population either directly or indirectly, one way or the other, engaged in agriculture. However, agriculture in the Gambia is not mechanized. Agriculture in this country is based on the use of animal-drawn implements, that is the horses and the donkeys. The welfare of those animals are very sad. There have been some work done over the years in that area by the Gambia Horse and Donkey Trust. So we think there is another area that has a big blank, the welfare of the food animals. That is the sheep, the goat, the poultry, the pigs, and all the food animals, the cow that we have in the Gambia. Nobody has been talking about their welfare. Their welfare is poor. Their welfare is a major source of concern. That is why we partner with a Swedish NGO called Veterinary Without Borders, the Swedish chapter, to address the welfare issues in food animals in the Gambia.
Before we end this bulletin, let's recap our main stories. The Pan-African movement, African Rising, launched the National Engagement Space in the Gambia. The movement is committed to responding to the needs of the African people, said the movement coordinator Mohamed Lamin Sedikan. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Tambedu, revealed that Gambia is in the final stage to establish a Human Rights Commission. Tambedu made the revelation at the launch of a 2-year project on human rights to be implemented by Article 19 and partners. The Commonwealth Partnership for Democracy, a 2-year program, begins work in the Gambia. The program aimed to work with Parliament to improve the representation of women, youth, and persons with disability. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Join us tomorrow for more news.